So it's Premier Gospel. My name is Jermaine Dallas, and I'm sat opposite the man of the moment. It's got a new album coming out. It's A-Star. How you doing, man?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very good. But tell me about this album then, because it's been a long time in the making. I've just been, when is this album coming? And it's finally coming. It's finally here.
Yeah.
So tell me about it.
So my album's called Born and Raised, out March 6th, and it's been like 2-3 years in the making, if I'm honest. My mistake was constantly speaking about it without it actually being ready. But it is ready now, and I'm happy with how it sounds. And I knew that something as special as my debut album would take time, so that's why the time is now.
So this is your first ever album, but you released the project Revolutionary a few years ago.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between that and now? What's the journey that you've been on to get to releasing Born and Raised?
So I think I've always been trying to find my own sound. I think that's been one of the biggest battles for myself, growing in my craft and in my faith and in my musical abilities. I've always been like, what is my sound? What is it that people appreciate my music? What is it that people appreciate about my music? And I've always been like, oh well, maybe it's kind of pop vibe because that's what gets the festivals. Maybe it's a chilled R&B vibe. That's what gets the more the female listeners. What is it that I'm good at? And I feel like over these years I've just been chasing what I think is either popular or gets the most bookings or whatever, and I just kind of had to take a step back and say stop, look at what you're good at, what do people appreciate and enjoy your music for, and I found just started carving and making my own lane basically. So I think that when I started discovering what I was about and what music I was comfortable and confident in making, Revolutionary was the introduction of that, and Born and Raised is like the big one. Yeah.
So you say you finally got to that destination where you found your sound. What is that sound? Because personally, I still see you as a grime kid.
Yeah.
Is that what you're...
Yeah, definitely. I would say 100% my music is grime, whether it's got different elements to grime, where you have a song like Hidden Pain, which is still 140, but it's a kind of slower vibe, and then you've got songs like Born and Raised, which is an old school kind of vibe, but it's all together. I would still say my sound is grime.
Highlights on the album, what can we expect?
Expect raw, real, rugged. I'll always say that people should expect that from my music. I'll never shy away from that. Expect just a reality of where I am, where I've been, where I've come from, where how God has saved me, and a lot of struggles and battles that I've been through. I've really just tried to pour my heart out on this album and give my all and say everything without sugarcoating anything. So there will be a lot of shockers on the album, but this is me, this is my heart.
What are some of the struggles that you've been through that are talked about in this album?
Some of the things I talk about is living up to people's expectations. I've got a song called What Do You Want From Me that speaks about that. I've got a song called Doubts that speaks about doubting my faith, and speaking with someone who's had doubts about their faith and wouldn't consider themselves in the faith anymore. I've got a song called One Click Away that speaks about battling with pornography, and obviously Hidden Pain that speaks about battling with sickle cell.
Let's talk about Hidden Pain, because I saw you on national news, on TV, on radio, all over the place talking about that. Why did you feel like you had to share your story in such a public way like that?
I've always been someone who's been real about my health battles with sickle cell. It hasn't been something I've shied away from, but mostly in the last, I would say, 2 years, I've got to meet a lot of people online through social media who have the same story as me when it comes to their health. So it's encouraged me to speak more, because growing up, you know, myself and a lot of others, we were told by, you know, parents or peers to not speak much about our health, or even church members, pastors, don't speak on it, don't speak that into your life. But we've had to kind of shy away from speaking our truth, which hasn't helped at all. We've just had to kind of suppress how we really feel about this, because it's an everyday battle. So you know, I've been encouraged and inspired to speak about my health more. And I always knew a track like Hidden Pain will come across. I just didn't know when and how. But when I heard the instrumental with my producer Alex E, and he started playing the keys, I knew exactly what kind of track it would be, where I wanted to take it. By God's grace, it delivered like that.
And it served two purposes, didn't it? Because it didn't just tell your story, but it also encouraged a lot of people to give blood, didn't it?
Yeah. So with my story came a lot of research, a lot of speaking to other people, different organizations like NHSBT, who I partnered with on this song, finding out statistics like only 1% of black people in the UK give blood. These kind of things triggered me to speak about it more, encourage people to give blood. And the song within itself, which was literally a song I wanted to just put out to speak for myself and for all sickle cell sufferers, became a campaign within itself, which I couldn't control at all. And that's what pushed me more to say, you know what, let's get this song out there and ask for people to give blood.
One of the big things that happened to you since Revolutionary is that you got married, which is great news. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what's the one biggest surprise about married life that you didn't expect?
I didn't know how selfish I would be, or I'd find out that I was. I always heard that from people, I find out how selfish I am, and I just didn't understand it until I was married. I think we live in a generation where people love the wedding day, but they don't expect much from the marriage. But I've learned to twist that around, where your wedding day is only a scratch of what's going to happen in the actual marriage. Your real marriage starts when you get back from your honeymoon, and it's you and your wife facing each other, and real life is hitting you. So that's what I got to learn, that, you know, the real marriage is not just one day, it's a whole lifetime together.
Maybe I should ask your wife this question about what's it like being in a marriage where you are a creative, and because I imagine as an artist you're always thinking, always creating, always thinking about bars or rhythms or whatever. Do you find like you have to wear a couple of hats, where you are A Star the husband and A Star the artist?
I think in a sense I do, but also because I'm someone who's very open about my life struggles. Even I talk about how difficult marriage is and my expectations of marriage in my songs, on my album. I get to wear different hats, but different hats under one big hat, because I speak about marriage and all that in my music, and my music has, you know, my marriage has a big impact on my music. So does my health, life at home, my wife, everything. So I don't feel like I'm one person at home and a different person in the studio. But I feel like everything kind of merges into one.
You're really proud of being from East London?
I am, yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know, man. Just like Leytonstone's my home, and because I'm such a big grime fan, and knowing that I saw the birth of it, and, you know, I was involved in, you know, seeing artists that were big in the grime scene, that were my peers. Some of them went to my school. You know, I was there around the time of grime being born and being birthed, and was part of it, because, you know, we was all in school writing lyrics, standing in a circle at lunchtime, and I had my CD player with speakers and was just spitting bars. And that was the authenticity of it, to hear people in the grime scene that sounded like me, had an accent like me, dressed like me, were from the same area as me. It was closer to home than listening to your Tupacs or your 50 Cents that were across the other side of the world. So it meant a lot for me, and just to know that I was alive in the birth of this, it will never leave me.
Yeah, And those guys were our Tupac and Biggie. Those
Exactly.
guys who, and one of those guys I know you are a big fan of is DEE.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, he actually performed at your wedding, didn't he?
Yeah, that's shout out to my groomsmen. They did that for me, man. Yeah, yeah.
So and then you subsequently went on to record a track with him, which must
Yeah.
have been sort of like a bucket list thing for you. To
Yeah,
do that.
so it was I wouldn't say it was something that I said, yes, I need to do it, but I always have admired people like DEE. He's a pioneer in the grime scene. You know, when people say, is he in your top 3 MCs, I'm like, it's a disrespect for us to put DEE in our top anything. He stands alone, like he's by himself. And yeah, through the wedding we got to create a good relationship, and through that we met up and went studio and banged out the track.
Did that raise some eyebrows, the fact that this is A-Star, he's like the gospel artist?
Yeah.
DEE isn't a gospel artist. Why are those two working together?
It didn't raise as much eyebrows as people must have thought it would. I honestly didn't think about that, and I didn't care, just because people that know me know that I'm a grime fan anyway, and they know that if I was to jump on a track with someone who doesn't share the same faith with me in the grime scene, I would never shy away from saying, gotta pray for the ends, like I did on Born and Raised, and speak about, you know, things that happen in my area, broken homes and all that, and the solution being God. I wouldn't shy away from that. So I never saw it as an issue. And if people did, then there's nothing I could do about that. But I'm a creative. I love what I do. Yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm an artist as well. So I wouldn't have an issue sharing the mic with other people of different faiths. Obviously, I do have my barriers and concerns with you know, with a few things. But besides that, I'm a creative as well.
Yeah. Now, you said earlier that you are very frank in talking about your feelings, your anxieties, frustrations, or whatever. And I remember there was a track that you made a few years ago when you were talking about the fact that you do these performances and all you get is rice and a kind of Sprite.
96 bars, yeah.
So what do you think that UK artists are underappreciated sometimes?
100%. I feel like you know, a lot is expected from us, and very little is given back to us. I feel like I've always had a frustration with, you know, yes, we come from the church, but, you know, I've had a frustration with quote unquote big churches that would book overseas artists and pastors and pay tens and 20s of thousands of pounds to fly them over, get them in a hotel, get their team here, you know, get their band or whatever it is, their PAs over. But with the local artists, you'll give him crumbs. You know, that's always been a big issue of mine, and I will always speak up on it because it doesn't just happen to myself, it happens to my peers. And there's a lot of conversations we have behind closed doors that a lot of people don't know about, frustrations, whether it comes to deep issues, you know, as deep issues as well as racism within the church, and, you know, sexism, favoritism. A lot of these conversations are convos that we've had, but a lot of people also won't speak on public platforms about this. But I don't mind speaking about it if I have to take the bullet, or
You're the sacrificial lamb in this.
yeah, if I have to be the sacrificial lamb for my peers or people coming in the next generation after me to be treated better or appreciated or to be looked after better, then so be it.
It's one thing to raise an issue, it's another thing to actually enact change. What needs to be different for you to not have that frustration and other artists coming up to have those same frustrations in the future?
Yeah, I think the difference between us and someone like maybe people in the States is they have more people that are willing to pour in and invest into artists. You've got labels like Reach Records, that's Lecrae, coming together with someone else that wanted to invest in that, and they've got the beautiful label that is Reach Records now, and they've got the opportunity to sign artists for artists to do this full time and to feed their families with it. I don't feel like we have a lot here where we could do. There's a lot of Christians in the UK who love creative, you know, who love artistry, and they have the means to be able to invest in artists. I would encourage them to do so. And I would encourage the local church to look after local artists as well, invest in them, invest in young people, invest in young talent, and not always have to shy away from them and then wonder or be surprised when they go off and do music that is not Christian based. I think it starts within first.
You've been doing this for a long time. What's been your biggest regret?
Within music?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if I can say I have any regrets.
That's a good thing.
Actually, my one biggest regret is, early in my early years of doing music, I kind of feel like I come across very judgmental in my music to people that are possibly not believers, or people that possibly have maybe different beliefs in regards to theologically, and not just in my music but in my attitude and character, within the music scene, meeting different artists that come from different churches and backgrounds and all that stuff, and not being gracious enough. And sometimes that is still at the back of my mind, like, people that I was good friends with 10 years ago, and how do they see me now, kind of thing. And that's probably one of the biggest regrets for me. I would always encourage someone who's come in the faith, who's become a Christian, and who wants to do arts, to chill for a bit and to know what they believe, and to get involved in a local church, to be built up, discipled, and then take your time. Music's not going to run away, I always say, because I feel like you just need to know yourself and know God more before you just jump in and think, yeah, I'm a Christian and you're not, and you're going to hell, and all of these kind of things. Do you know what I'm saying? So if that's one thing I regret, then it is that. But as you grow in the years, you grow in your faith, you grow in your knowledge, you grow in love and compassion, and I just feel like I should have had more of that in my early years.
Yeah. And so that's regrets. On the other side, career highlights.
Highlights in my career is definitely recording a full-length album, which is this one, recording and releasing a full-length EP, Revolutionary, that went to number 4 in the UK Christian and Gospel charts, which I was not expecting whatsoever. Number 4 in the iTunes hip hop charts.
And that's big. That's huge.
Yeah, but also one of my highlights is actually growing to not care about these things anymore, if I'm honest. So with this album, my biggest accomplishment is getting this album out. Whatever it does is up to God. Yes, I would push for promo and PR and for music to get into people's ears, but the most important thing in this is that people are impacted by my music. I never want to lose that vision, and replace it with numbers, chart positions, and awards. So if personally, to me, I even have a line that's in my album that says, I keep comparing myself, so I'm not. That's why I'm not really a fan of award shows. So I'm trying to push that to the side, and possibly it will come, nominations and stuff, whether it comes or not. I want the main purpose to be the main purpose. So accomplishments is definitely recording a full-length album and putting it out, and obviously the main thing, getting messages from people saying, your music has inspired me, has made me consider my faith in the Lord and things like that.
That's great. So people coming up now, especially from a Christian perspective and getting into hip hop or grime or whatever, have people like you to look up to.
Yeah.
Who were the people that you were looking up to musically when you were coming up in the ranks? Were the people that you were looking up to
within Christian music?
Yeah,
of course. Jahaziel was one of my biggest inspirations. He he was about people and not just the music. He would give you the last £5 that was in his account. He would give you, he would invite you around to his house where his family was, not knowing their privacy and all that stuff, but he would still invite a bunch of people in his house just to have a Bible study to pour into people. So Jahaziel, I always big him up. I looked at people like him, like Dwayne Triumph, like IC, New Direction Crew, It Is, and they were the kind of older guys that I looked up to. I came in the faith quite late, so I would still be like a newcomer compared to your Faith Childs and your Vic Tizzles and things like that. But yeah, so there's the kind of people I looked up to.
And what would you want people coming up to notice about you? If I was to ask someone in like 10 years time the same thing about this guy called A-Star who was doing this thing in 2020, what would you want them to say?
I would like for them to say that I was someone who encouraged them in one way or another, whether it came to their personal life, their walk with God, or their music, that I was someone who was passionate about pouring into the next generation, and not just look at me, but always had an attitude of, look, there's not just me. Yes, I've got this platform, but I've got an army of people behind that are ready to come and do what I do, and probably even better as well. So I always want to be known as someone who didn't just live for myself and in my craft. I supported others, whether it come to something small as retweeting their stuff, but I always showed love and support to, other artists like my peers and the next generation too.
What's the funniest or most embarrassing thing to happen to you on stage?
Recently, actually, it was about a year ago, I got attacked by a bee that just did not want to leave the stage. It's like he was trying to grab the mic off me. But I was at a kind of an event, outdoor event in West London, and all of a sudden this bee decided to come and start fellowshipping with me out of nowhere. And
Did
I'm
it
trying.
sting you?
No,
Okay,
he didn't.
good.
But if I had stayed still and allowed him to chill, he would have got closer, and that would have been it for me. But I had to, tell him stop the tune for a bit, get rid of this bee, come off stage for a bit until he went, and I'll come back. Yeah.
Are you okay with bees there?
I'm cool with bees, but I don't know what it was with that bee. Maybe I smelled like honey that day, but I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. So one last plug for the album. Tell me its title, when it's out, and how we can get hold of it.
The album's called Born and Raised. It's out March 6th, 2020, and you can get it on all online stores and platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music. Not Ditto. What's Jay-Z's thing called again? Can't remember. Tidal, that's it, and all the good stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. A-Star, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Premier Gospel.